again, and welcome to the third installment of Unpacking. So, daily there's some new issue coming up and new thoughts around all of this stuff. Today things are, I think, kind of at a point. I don't know, something about today. I feel like the universe is just looking down and kind of laughing, to be honest, but is sort of making everything coalesce. So, how do I describe? My friend on Facebook, who is a white male, a very kind person, very open-minded, progressive. He's a really great person. He wrote me a message, including a video clip of Morgan Freeman. In an interview, he was asked if he saw a correlation between blackness and poverty, and Morgan made this statement like, "No, I sort of, no, it's, people need to, work and strive." I've heard this argument before. Bill Cosby, I'm looking at you. It's not uncommon, and my white friend, wrote me because he was kind of like, "What's that all about?" And I should say he prefaced a lot of his letter with sort of he was expressing that he understood that it might be exasperating for me to have him bring, a question and ask for learning and teaching from the person of color in his life. And I appreciate that he gets that is part of what is occurring for Black people right now. Like, we're being asked to do work when it's something we're kind of constantly already engaged in. So it's hard because, like, I see a lot of my white friends really, they're struggling. They're trying to connect with this as a cause and trying to figure out how to engage with it properly. And yet what they're doing is they're, in a weird way, practicing a certain level of that same sort of supremacy and privilege in asking, because, and sort of picking up the microphone that they're always holding, that's what's interesting about supremacy is it's a microphone you don't even realize you have in your hand all the time. And so when people go, "I'm ready to listen, tell me your story," it's the feeling like they're holding the microphone and finally bringing it in front of you, even though you've been telling the story. You've just been telling it, But this points to something that's really been right for me already. And what I keep trying to get people back on is this understanding of supremacy as our problem, our issue to be solved. The thing that we need to put into focus is where we put power. And because this is what keeps happening in my mind is everyone's focusing on these isms, right? Racism, it's horrible. Sexism, horrible. Homophobia, horrible, right? All of these things. All of those things, though, are symptoms. They're symptoms of a problem. They're problems, of course. They have real world implications, but they're the symptoms. The problem is supremacy around being white and male and heterosexual and upper class in our society. That's where power has been given. That is where power is centered. It is always there. The microphone is always in those hands. And so, like, if we don't focus on this supremacy, what ends up happening a lot of the time is people don't start to recognize where they've been influenced by it. Morgan Freeman's in this video, right? And he's saying this thing that is so counter to his own self-interest, right? He's a Black man in America. There is no way that he has not been subjected to racism directly as a result of being a Black male in America. He, on some fronts, is disconnected from this because he is now wealthy and now in sort of an enclave of the world that separates and distinguishes him out of that. And so I think he's probably experienced it a lot less. I think that he may not see that in order to sort of, be in that world, that he has had to kind of sacrifice certain kind of resolution in his ideals, and that he may not be aware of the fact that he too is believing the thoughts and conditions that have been taught because of supremacy around whiteness, being male, being heterosexual, and being upper class in our world. It's important to stay with the supremacy because that is what guides both the racist holding the gun and walking up to the black person and threatening them outwardly, but it also is what guides my friends with the microphone and saying, I'm ready to listen, and here you go. Here's finally, here you go. I'm willing to give you enough, time and shrift. I mean, it may become inconvenient down the road, and I don't know. I may even drop this, but here you go. Do you see how this is all supremacy? This is all the practice of that supremacy. And this is not to make you feel bad, but it may make you feel bad. That's not my intent here. I'm just telling you that the sky is blue. This is what is. And it's important to keep that focus there, because this is how you end up in these odd conversations with people where you're going, how is that, what is a black Republican? I don't understand it. I don't. Why would a woman wear a shirt, supporting Trump? Why would a woman go to that rally? I don't even understand. I mean, he says things that are so patently sexist and horrible, right? Why would she do that? Because the construct of the world is telling every one of us, whether we're white, black, male, female, gay, straight, everyone is being taught the same exact trope, the same exact falsehood, that to be white, to be male, to be heterosexual, and to be upper class, because don't forget that upper class part too, those are the only people who are fully enfranchised in our world. If you are not part of it, you're just a side actor. We're just something that helps to move the plot along in their hero's journey. We're not the main character here. The whole world wends to that supremacy. And it's the answer to any inquiry you may have, any time that you feel compelled to come to me and say, what do? I say dismantle white, male, heterosexist, upper class supremacy. And that sounds really big and really daunting. And it is really big and really daunting. And to be honest, I don't even know how much optimism I have as to how far we will go in my lifetime. But I know that it is too easy to forget and to drop sort of our drive and ambition towards change when we keep focusing on every one of these little rungs in our cage. Because it's a cage. We're being held hostage by this trope of supremacy. These isms are just the rungs in that cage. And we have to be here and vigilant about staying here on this conversation, because it's not about solving black people. We're not a problem to be solved. White supremacy is the problem. That is what needs to be solved. And the energy and everything must drive toward that. You have to see it, you have to own it, and you have to see all the myriad ways that supremacy plays out in our world. It is not the overt. It is definitely not just the overt. Much of supremacy is covert. It's happening in very small, insidious, minute ways. If you want me to give you more of those examples, I'll try and make that hour-long video. But let me tell you, that's where it is. That's where it lies. Every one of my white friends and family, every single one of you is still practicing supremacy right in this moment, no matter how hard you're trying not to. It's inside us. It's the air we are all breathing. There's compassion for where you are, but know that it's the supremacy that we must focus on, the supremacy.